Guys, here's another quick update video on Bitcoin and Ethereum. We'll start off with the liquidation heat map because it's really lighting up like crazy beneath us. Now we need to take a bit of a long-term view because we're starting to consolidate a little at the moment. You can see it right now with Bitcoin. It keeps going up to 190,000, then back down to 170,000. It's really just liquidations being flushed out here. We can take a look at that here as well. Same thing with Bitcoin. On the 1 month chart, we absolutely must not ignore the 100,000 level. And if we go to the 2 weeks and look at what's coming out here, folks, you can see the reason why I've currently placed long orders at about 49,900. You can see it, that's the trading bots, and we'll go through those as well. You can see it here, 104,900, a long order, and once at 100,000 for Bitcoin USDT, and I've done the same for Bitcoin US dollar. That means here as well, at 104,900 and at $100,000, but also even lower in case we actually get a wick below that. I've already realized most of this position with just under 2,000 US dollars. It still has 500 in profit now, but I'm taking a similar approach with Ethereum. That one is still $5,000 in profit, and I've realized $3,300. A small XLP long is still open, and it's slightly in the loss at 0.7%. That's fine, I'm compounding it. But this is actually my current approach because of the long-term liquidation heat map, which we shouldn't ignore. Just blindly going long up here somewhere, right? Just because someone says they have some analysis, technical analysis is good, but we've seen there was a new announcement regarding the EU tariffs. Bitcoin went down, that was lifted or rather postponed. Bitcoin goes up, and right now all we're doing is picking up liquidations on the smaller time frames, small liquidation heat map. If we look at the 1 day, 3 day or 12-hour charts, you can see this very clearly with Bitcoin. So right now, nothing else is happening except that we're triggering liquidations both at the top and the bottom. Now we're picking up another one. Trying to log a lot here again, right? But apart from picking up these small liquidation levels, not much is happening at the moment. If you know what you're doing, if you say, okay, I'm using exactly these small price movements to take short-term profits, then go ahead and do that if you're an experienced trader. But at the moment, swing positions, at least on the long side, on long, I would really be cautious here, especially on the 1 month or 2 week time frame. If we also look at the trader I introduced to you in the last few days or in the last videos, he currently has almost 4.3 million US dollars in losses on his trade. He's long on Bitcoin. But if we look at it, not much is happening at the moment either. He simply realized his 16 million here once and then lost 15.8 million on the next short. He also closed the Pepe cap with an 858,000 loss, even though the last trade 3 days earlier brought in 25 million in profit. So really crazy. Overall, he's definitely in the profit here. That's probably why he's playing around a bit right now, but I don't think anyone wants to take a weekly P&L loss of nearly 60 million. We'll also take a look at the Ethereum chart. This could finally play out the way I already told you, that here, especially on the daily chart with this overheated RSI we had, which was really very high. And I said to you, hey, we need to consolidate a bit here. That would be ideal, not with a big drop, but rather consolidate, let the RSI recover a bit, and then use that as a new pump, as a new upswing to reach new highs. And we have this bullish counterpart here, which is currently playing out. And it would be optimal if we actually break upwards now above this price range, above this yellow line here, and actually reach around 3,100, where this key level is again, which I have marked for a very, very long time. I'll zoom in right now, then you can see it better. Now, in any case, the goal is to break through this line, the upper part of my key level, to the upside. And if we manage to do that, Ethereum will have a bit of room to move upwards. Despite all that, we still have the liquidation heat map. It might even go below this pennant here and pick up the liquidity that's just lying here. And that's just too interesting for me. In the past, this happened so often that we stopped paying attention to it for a while because the time frame was too large. And then it happened very quickly, causing us to move downward. And you can see that here as well. If you look at CoinCash over a year for Bitcoin, this kept happening again and again. We went up here as well to 116,000 or rather 118,000 and then actually dropped back down to 90,000 here and then even down to 89,000 again. We reached a new high, then had a quick wick down again and things come down a bit. Be careful if you are now entering a long position too aggressively. Just my personal recommendation. That's also the reason why I'm now really opening my new long positions below this level in my trades, and at this point, I'm not doing anything new unless there's some news. The trading bots are super active. For example, over the past 8 days, one of them made 1.3%, did a bit of buying, but if we look at it over the month, we're getting around 4 to 4.5 up to 5% returns. Even the older trading bots, on average, have made about 4.3% over the last 2 months. That one has made a bit less, but it's working as well. If you're not familiar with this yet, check the video description or at the end of the video. I'll link the playlist for you. There are 3 videos, or rather 2 of them are interesting. You can set this up yourself, and I've now also created a group on Telegram, a subgroup, where we can exchange ideas, where you can ask questions, and I'll answer them for you. Otherwise, there are some really interesting crypto news today. We see here GameStop has bought Bitcoin for the first time, worth 513 million US dollars. That's actually super bullish, isn't it? What else we have, and Crypto Eris posted this an hour ago, FTX is now paying out 5 billion US dollars in stablecoins from their previous bankruptcy proceedings. And of course, it's possible that this will now be used to buy new cryptos. Ideally, if the price is lower, because whether people will use this now to buy in again at an all-time high or near the all-time high, I don't know. That's also not the smartest thing to do. Instead, you usually buy during a dip. Will it continue to go parabolic? Of course, that could happen. No one knows. But we also need to be careful, because what do we see here? We have new news from Donald, who writes here, "What Vladimir Putin doesn't realize is that if it weren't for me, lots of really bad things would have already happened to Russia." And I mean really bad. He is playing with fire. If something escalates here, folks, this could lead to the mentioned drop to lower prices, because we know that just the tariffs that were announced against the EU caused Bitcoin to fall, and when the tariffs were postponed, Bitcoin rose. And if we want to see lower prices, then our best indicator is simply a post where something happens and we go down. Very interesting. Robert Kiyosaki also posted something here. I didn't quite understand it. That's why I simply put this post into ChatGPT and said, "Hey, can you explain this to me in detail? And what does that mean?" And it also said, on May 20th, 2025, the US Treasury held an auction for 20-year government bonds worth 16 billion US dollars. However, demand was so weak, especially from foreign buyers and large institutions. As a result, yields rose to 5.127%, the highest level since November 2023. Reports indicate that the Federal Reserve intervened and bought about 50 billion US dollars worth of government bonds on its own to support demand. This is reminiscent of the quantitative easing measures, where central banks create money out of nothing to buy assets. What is meant here, and Robert Kiyosaki has always meant it this way in this post, if we take a look at it as well, the party is over. Hyperinflation is here. And so the Fed quickly bought 50 billion of its own fake money with another fake money. And what he means is that money was printed to buy that, so that it doesn't look so bad. But the big advantage is, when money is printed, it flows even more into risk assets. And that could lead to new highs, new price increases for Bitcoin, gold, or other things, but especially for Bitcoin, since we're talking about the crypto market. However, I have to be honest, in my opinion, though I could be wrong, anything is possible, I think we might not drop that much further, but this liquidation has hit me. Pluck them all, so never. So take a look at that, 105,000, a super interesting price range. It might not hurt to set something up there, all without guarantee. That's why I've built my position with low leverage, and I'm still setting it further down. What do you think about that? I think I've given you a quick and concise update. Well, as quick and concise as possible. Almost 10 minutes. Exactly, leave a like and drop a comment. We'll see each other again in the next video. Bye bye.